I spent an entire hour perfecting my hairstyle and put on my favorite purple dress, ready to shine at school. 24. Mercy closed her eyes as she added a final layer of hairspray to her tresses, freezing them into their spiral shape. Since early morning her hands had been hard at work for this glamorous look, crafty manipulating her hair with a curling wand. By now, an hour later, her arms felt heavy and strained, but the result was undeniably fantastic. Her shiny locks rippled behind her in luscious waves as she moved her head from side to side. They looked like the type to be in a hair commercial. This was only the beginning. A thin layer of make-up was smoothed over her face, and she had been extremely mindful of keeping it light. The cocky look never suited her, and her clear skin didn't need much to hide. Only a slight buffing to hide any unevenance. Her natural glow was subtly amplified by the latest highlighter, which for a moment she considered adding more to give Sebastian the ability to pinpoint her words by her blinding shine from any part of the halls. But she figured his other senses did a good enough job of that. Her outfit consisted of a stylish two-piece with long bottoms that made her behind look like she's been doing squats since the start of her youth, and a top that showed a small sliver of her belly. As expected, her outfit included her favorite color by being purple and white stripes. She added cute white wedges to match. Her foot finished healing 3 days ago, allowing her to get a much-needed pedicure and wear whatever footwear she liked. Truly, she was a sight for sore eyes, and she couldn't wait to show off her look at school, especially to see the reaction of a specific someone. After spraying 2 pumps of her favorite perfume, she was good to go. Stepping out of her room, she encountered Lydia, who unlike usual actually stopped to take in her attire. If her sister was impressed, then this was a good sign. Wow, you really don't play games when it comes to your birthday. Slightly taken aback by her extreme efforts, Lydia was the type to draw much attention to herself, preferring to blend into the background and go otherwise unnoticed. Mercy shrugged. Today is a very special day, little sis. Not only am I 18, but I also have mature. Maybe this year I'll be getting a werewolf husband. Mercy wondered if going from premature to mature made her more irresistible than before. Something that would be an appreciated advantage when dealing with a stoic male like Sebastian. She understood werewolf men were drawn to her because of it. Yet it was as though any had dropped on one knee to mate her. The majority of the cult were just friendly and open to spending time with her. She was glad of this, although judging by her sister's negative reaction, Lydia was receptive to her own possession of premature. Rather, she rolled her eyes, clearly put off by her prediction. Go ahead and get your man, baby maker. Unlike you, I desire a future that doesn't tie me down to this place, she said distastefully. Mercy waved her hand dismissively. To each their own. Who was she to dictate her sister's love life? Staying in Dark Falls did not sound like a bad thing to her. She very much liked it here. It'll be a great baby maker. A young, beautiful, happily married baby maker, she replied, purposely adding an extra dose of fluff to make her sister more irritated. Mercy laughed heartily when Lydia stuck a finger in her throat and fake gag. They'll be waiting when you change your mind. Living in my own upscale condo in the city making tons of money. The birthday girl shook her head. Mercy supposed being wealthy had its own appeal. At one point she did picture herself marrying a rich billionaire and being a housewife in one of those popular shows. However, she dated a rich kid once and was to put off by his delicate and needy character. She much preferred Sebastian's rough and raw persona over her previous suitor. Mercy patted her sister's shoulders, feeling like a grown adult teaching a toddler the do's and don'ts of life. It's not all about money, Lydia. What good is living in a huge expensive home if you're all alone? At least if I marry, I'd have a fun family to go home to every night, and people I enjoy spending time with. However, if things don't work out, I'll happily freeload over all your riches, my genius sister. Not knowing how to reply after such a statement, Lydia resigned to staring at her thoughtfully. After a few moments, she murmured, "Whatever." Mercy grabbed a side rail of the stairs. "Your earbook, smart girl. But when it comes to matters of the heart, you're guarded. Learn to risk it a little. Lydia, you have the ability to make babies and suddenly you're 𝐊𝐬𝐬 expert now. Give me a break. You don't even have a man yet. What are you going to do if in the end of your nonsense he doesn't even want you? Mercy lifted her hand, stopping her from going any further. So far, this was the second time someone told her she was in over her head. I'm walking away from your negativity now, especially since I believe I have a chance with Sebastian. Decidedly brushing the criticism from her thoughts. You're in for a rude awakening, chasing after some handsome, popular guy that probably won't give you the time of day. And if he does, it's only for a moment before he turns back to a better option. I bet he doesn't even like you. 𝐿𝐲's probably just being nice. My goodness, Lydia. Did anyone hurt you recently? Mercy countered jokingly, completely baffled by her sister's words. Despite their harshness, Mercy was not hurt by them. If anything, she was curious as to why her younger sister was so strongly opposed of her feelings for Sebastian. While she was previously supportive of them, she hadn't been so vehemently against them the way she was now. It sounded off coming from her. She usually allowed Mercy to freely pursue whoever she desired, regardless of any reservations. I'm warning you before you get hurt, she screamed back, lifting her hands in agitation. Liking this Sebastian guy has brought you trouble. Don't forget how you got into that accident. It could have turned out way worse for you. Besides, I've seen him in the hallways with some brown-haired chick behind him sometimes. Judging by the way she looks at him, I'm pretty sure they have history. I can guarantee she'd prefer one of his own over a girl with matura. Mercy expelled a large puff of air. She knew the girl Lydia was referring to was most likely Keisha, the beautiful dusty-skinned, blue-eyed girl who was probably as into Sebastian as herself. She recalled Emma mentioning Keisha was very territorial over Sebastian, even though they weren't dating. In her sister's eyes, she could see how it could appear like they had some sort of relationship, and at the end of the day Mercy didn't have knowledge of their past to make a good judgment call on that. Listen, I get it. I'll be the first to openly admit Sebastian hasn't necessarily done much to return my affections. At the same time, that doesn't mean I'm not going to try. What's the worst that could happen? Him rejecting me. I'm pretty sure I'll eventually get over it. It's not the end of the world if a guy ends up not liking me 𝐿𝐲𝐷. Lydia's eyes flashed with fury. You're and it. You're placing your heart on a platter and basically saying here I am. Stab me if you please. Run me over if that's not fun enough for you. Why would you do that to yourself? Mercy eyed her sister critically. When I asked if someone hurt you, I was sort of joking. But now I think I might be onto something. This sounds like a case of misplaced anger. Who's the guy? No one. Lydia's response was so quick. Mercy knew she was lying. To further prove her assessment, her sister began to twirl a ring on a finger, a habit she did when she became nervous. Guys are bound to piss us off at some point. But I hope 𝐿𝐲𝐸, Mercy continued, paying her no mind. I was kind of hoping you'd be into Micah. 𝐿𝐲's a nice boy. At the mention of his name, Mercy noticed her sister visibly recoil. Why on earth would I bother? She answered coolly, her voice hard and distant. 𝐿𝐲's got some werewolf girl after him, just like Sebastian. It's why I'm warning you to not waste your time. The birthday girl frowned, immediately sensing waters ran deeper than Lydia let on. What exactly had happened between Micah and Lydia? As far as she remembered, Micah was a cute, sweet teenager. She remembered him originally telling her Lydia was mean to him, and she encouraged him by saying Lydia generally did that with boys she liked. Are you guys in bad terms? What's going on between you two? Mercy asked, taking a delicate step in her direction. For a moment, a look of pain crossed Lydia's features, but immediately she saw her sister build a wall, brick by brick, until all that was left was a fade of indifferent. Nothing's going on, Mars. I stupidly allowed myself to grow feelings for him, but in the end I shouldn't have gotten my hopes up. I don't want to talk about it anymore, she answered definitively, sensing her sister would not divulge more information. Mercy decided not to push on the matter any further. At least for now. At a more opportune time she would get the full details. And in a time when Lydia was not so edgy and determined to cover her frustration and sadness, wanting to somehow comfort her, Mercy pulled her sister to her chest and enveloped her in a hug, one which Lydia did not immediately respond to, but rather glared in her direction. "I told you I feel fine," she grit. Mercy shrugged. "It's my birthday. Shouldn't I be showered with affection? I'm amazing. I deserve this hug." As expected, her statement made Lydia relax her tensed shoulders and return the gesture. "Happy birthday, big sis," she mumbled quietly. Mercy ran her fingers through her sister's wavy locks. Unlike her, Lydia rarely bothered to straighten her hair or even curl it for any special look, preferring instead to wear her hair as natural as it came. Because of this, she had little to no split ends, and Mercy was able to easily detangle her tresses. After a few moments, Mercy stepped back and looked at her sister in the eye. "I may be a little boy crazy, but always remember there's other fishes in the sea. Regardless of what happened between you and Micah, you still have the Wilton genes in you, which means by default you're awesome, beautiful, and amazing. Don't close your heart off because of an experience you had with one guy." Lydia stayed quiet, unresponsive to Mercy's statement, deciding she would let her words sit. Mercy planted a kiss on her forehead and headed to the stairs. She hoped whatever animosity had built up between them would dissolve and somehow fix itself. Lydia had never had a boyfriend before, much less love interest, so her first one was bound to have her level-headed sister in a teasel. A part of her cowed and helped but also pondered Lydia's words. Was it truly so wrong of her to openly display her preference for Sebastian, especially when he himself did not show much interest? On this she did agree. Doing this placed her in a vulnerable position. Nonetheless, she figured it was harmless. The moment he fixed his attention elsewhere on some girl, or specifically told her he didn't like her, she would move on. She'd freely wear her heart on her sleeve. "Oh my gosh, you look so hot. Happy birthday," Emma congratulated, giving her a gift bag. "Seriously, you look like a supermodel," Lily agreed. "Here you go, birthday girl." She handed her 3 helium-inflated balloons with birthday engravings. A swirl of colors came from every direction. Mercy accepted their gifts and hugged them, appreciative of their thoughtfulness. "www, thanks for the gifts, ladies. And I'm glad to hear my early morning efforts were not put to waste." She gave them a 360-degree turn for extra effect, generating more wows and so pretty. To add to her joy, Emily's usual presence was nowhere to be seen. This was convenient, as she rarely ever had something positive to say, especially where it concerned the purple-eyed beauty. She most likely avoided joining the duo and went to class early to bypass congratulating her. But Mercy hardly felt miffed by this. Throughout the day, Mercy did not cease to receive congratulations everywhere she went, including from people she was not friends with. Her outfit alongside the gifts her friends gave her made it obvious today was her birthday. The countless compliments and words of praise boosted her already high esteem. Yet in spite of this, her heart anxiously hammered with anticipation. She wanted to see Sebastian. Everywhere she went in the halls, even while appearing to be giving her attention to the countless faces, she was in reality more focused on her peripheral view, hoping to catch the familiar band of friends. Much to her disappointment, she failed to see Sebastian and was even finding it difficult to pinpoint anyone from the cult. It was almost as though they were purposely avoiding her. Granted, she usually did not catch Sebastian until social studies, but at least she was accustomed of getting a glimpse of Noah flirting with some random chick, or Jordan waving at her from a distance before he entered a class. Nonetheless, for the first half of the day, Mercy didn't see any of them with the exception of Keisha, whose form of congratulation was wrapped in the form of a seething glare that clearly said, "I don't like you," before disappearing around a corner. To this day, Mercy still didn't understand her vicious behavior. What did she ever do to her? It wasn't until math class that she crossed out the idea of them avoiding her. Jordan was absent. By the time she arrived at social studies, it was clear Sebastian was absent too. At lunch, no one failed to notice that the table where the cult usually congregated was abnormally empty, and by the looks of it, even Keisha decided to skip lunch and bail. What was going on? Out of all the days they could have chosen to be absent, why did they have to choose the day where I look absolutely fantastic? I mean, really, all of them. What a waste of a spectacular outfit. Mercy grumbled, a peeved frown marring her features. Emma patted her shoulders, comforting. I don't know what to tell you. This isn't the first time this happens. There have been other days when none of them show up. Lily nodded in agreement, taking a small bite of her mozzarella stick. She was the slowest eater out of all of them, making her the only one who had yet to finish her lunch. It's kind of weird actually. Either they're all present, or they're all absent with the exception of Keisha, of course. Mercy placed her elbow on the table and rested her chin above her fist, wondering why that was. It's like all the guys do something and the girl isn't invited. What a drag. If I were her, would force them to let me join. I mean, look at her. She probably cut the remainder of school and went home. 𝐿𝐸𝐵's gaze steered to the empty table. Despite its availability, no one thought to sit there. Even in the cult's absence, people refrained from impinging on their supposed space. Emma shrugged. Most likely. This rarely happens, though. I think this is the third time during the school year. It's a shame it was on your birthday. Mercy expelled a large puff of air. Her fingers reached to touch her perfectly sculpted hair. The hairspray had done an excellent job at maintaining her hairstyle throughout the day. By now, her hair did not feel as hard by the hold, but softer. Aside from my birthday, I can't think of any other event I would look like this good for, Mercy said thoughtfully. Had she been attending one of her previous schools where girls dressed like they were walking the runway, wearing something like this every day would not be out of place. In Dark Falls, however, the people dressed rather plainly and washed out. After strolling through the fashion center, most of the outfits were simple everyday wear. It didn't surprise her that their citizens were outward expression of that. To my agent 𝐿𝐸𝐵 𝐊𝐸𝐵, heartfelt thanks for your unfailing 𝐊𝐸𝐳𝐷. We have the Winter Wonderland dance coming up in a few weeks. Lily supplied, finally finishing her last mozzarella stick. She wiped her hands with a tiny napkin nearby and gave her an excited smile. It's the event of the school year since we don't have prom. Mercy felt like someone hit the brakes too hard and caused her a minor case of whiplash. Wait, what? How do you not have prom? It also sounded weird to her that they would have Winter Wonderland in a place where they did not have snow year-round. Emma looked up in thought. Judging by her lack of frustration on this topic, it was obvious she was not as disturbed as her by this school's lack of event. Our graduating class is so small. Rather than spending our budget on a huge extravaganza for a few seniors, we do an annual big dance for the entire school. Everyone can come, from freshmen to seniors. It's much more fun, to be honest. Every year we can look forward to it instead of just waiting for one big dance. To my agent 𝐿𝐸𝐵 𝐊𝐸𝐵, heartfelt thanks for your unfailing 𝐊𝐸𝐵. I never would have thought of it that way, Mercy considered, her thoughts shifting in their favor. The remainder of the day was a blur to Mercy. Although it was her birthday, she didn't know what she would do today. Her family was not one to make a big deal of birthdays, so she knew there was nothing waiting for her at home. After speaking to Lydia this morning, her mother and father kissed her on the cheek and gave her an envelope with money so she could spend it on whatever she'd like. Although some would find such gift to be thoughtless, Mercy preferred it this way. She doubted her parents would choose anything she'd like anyway. Perhaps she could go shopping. Although the clothes around here would do little to impress her, she did need to buy new headphones and a charger for her phone, items which were currently tattered from regular use and wear. The remainder she would place in her vacation fund. It's where she usually put most of her wages. Had this been any regular day, she would work at the Dark Falls diner. But seeing she was so close from recovery, Kristen insisted she take an additional week off. At the time, it had been a no-brainer. She said yes. Now she kind of wished she had rejected the kind offer. Somehow, work had warmed up to her and she found herself enjoying it. Especially the awesome tips. Had she worked, would Hailey have been there tonight? She especially enjoyed working with the sweet girl, figuring she would find a way to distract herself for the remainder of the day. Massey finished putting away the things she wouldn't need in her locker. She took out a binder filled with all her homework assignments, which thankfully happened to be few, before finally closing her locker shut. To my authentic 𝐷𝐞𝐬𝐑𝐞𝐝 𝐊𝐢𝐵heartfelt thanks for your unfailing patience, 𝐊𝐢𝐧𝐃. A voice called out her name. That's weird. It almost sounds like Sebastian. Massey's eyes widened. Of all the people she expected to see, he was definitely not one of them. Today he was wearing a plain white shirt that accentuated his smooth bronze skin, making his handsome features more prominent than usual. The hair on his head looked slightly damp, as though he just finished taking a quick shower. "I'd like to speak to you," was his simple reply. Much to her satisfaction, his eyes slowly roved over her from head to toe, and then back to her face. For a moment, his golden eyes darkened and flashed with an emotion, but he blinked as quickly as it came, rendering her unable to discern what it was. "Sure," Massey agreed, easily complying with his request. Hearing this, Sebastian turned and started heading towards the school exit. Massey grinned secretly, all too eager to follow him. She recalled Jordan telling her a few days ago that Sebastian wanted to speak to her regarding her birthday, but refused to give her any additional information aside from that. Feeling bold, Massey looped her arm through his. "So, where were you guys today? I couldn't help but notice all of you were absent." To her slight surprise, Sebastian seemed to take that additional closeness in stride, not making move to detach himself from her. "We had some packed duties we needed to accomplish. We went out of town last night and returned today in the afternoon." "Wow, I didn't know you had packed duties out of this town. I thought you guys only stuck to Dark Falls." Sebastian shrugged, pulling her towards him when they made a sharp turn and she started lagging behind. Massey quickened her steps. It was her fault she couldn't keep up with this towering beast. Though these wedges were comfortable, it by no means meant she could run a marathon, much less keep up with his long, quick strides. "We have agreements and business deals with other packs near us. If it's an easy assignment, they usually give it to us, as we are considered novices. When I turn 18, I will most likely receive harder ones that take longer to accomplish," he informed. Hearing this, the signals in Massey's brain had a minor combustion, causing her to miss her step and almost trip in the process. Large hands reached out to steady her and brought her near his form. She could feel the heat radiating off him in waves. "Woman, can you keep up?" Sebastian scolded softly, eyes full of dismay at her clumsiness. Ignoring him, Massey gasped. "Oh my gosh, you're younger than me. In the pervert," she cried, a distraught expression taking over her features. In the past, the men she fell for were older than her, or at least her age. Sebastian's height, the way he carried himself, all of it pointed towards an older male. Would she be considered a cougar? Was it even legal to date someone younger than you once you reached 18? Sebastian merely raised a brow, his collected demeanor a stark difference to her current hysteria. It was obvious he was unperturbed by her recent discovery. "Yes, I am younger. My birthday is in 3 weeks. Not too far from yours." Massey detached herself from Sebastian, placing a hand on her head. "This is a tragedy. I'm going to go to jail. I'm partaking in forbidden love." This time, it was Sebastian's turn to ignore her behavior. He placed a hand at the small of her back and redirected her back towards the exit of the school. Meanwhile, Massey's mind was popping out ideas for making this relationship work despite it being illegal. She reckoned that as long as they didn't date until after he was 18, there wouldn't be a problem. Besides, she highly doubted that in 3 weeks Sebastian would magically decide to opt, so she could use this time to get to know him. Pleased with her conclusion, the corners of her lips lifted to a delighted smile. I see your dramatics are over, Sebastian noted, perceiving her untroubled demeanor. Mousy noticed there was a hint of humor in his eyes. When they reached the doors of the school, 𝐿𝐸's mood deflated as she saw the fat, wet drops of rain descend from the sky. Down, down, down they fell on the sidewalk. And moving cars. By now, the school buses had already left. How had she not noticed it started raining? Oh, that's right. Dark Falls High School weirdly lacked having many windows. Of the few she remembered, one was located in the upstairs library. There's no way I'm stepping into that. I put way too much effort on my hair today to have it ruined by this awful weather, she stated, staying rooted in her spot. What an import U&E day for it to start raining. Didn't nature know today was her birthday? The sun and its radiating rays should have greeted her on her way out. Not this. You didn't bring a sweater or jacket? Sebastian questioned, his eyes flickering to the bag on her shoulder, then to the gift bag at hand. Tied to the gift bag were the helium balloons Lydia had given her. Mousy shook her head. Of course not. The weather was fine this morning and I didn't want anything that could hide my outfit, she said rashly, looking down at her cute clothes. It would have been a shame to hide her curves beneath a simple sweater. Why didn't men understand that women didn't like to put on extra, unnecessary clothing? Sebastian 𝐿𝐸, eyes lifted in thought. After mere seconds. I'll be back. Stay here, Mousy. The helmet had been placed on her back was removed, making her lower spine feel cold at his withdrawal. She had gotten used to the feel of his hand on her. She didn't realize he kept holding her this whole time. A few minutes later, a familiar black car drove near the entrance. After coming to a smooth halt, Sebastian's dominating figure stepped out the driver's seat, a black jacket in hand. He jogged to her, and after stepping into the safety of her roof-covered area, he handed the article of clothing to her. As though making an exchange, he was quick to grab her purse and the gift her friends had given her. Whoever said chivalry is dead did not meet you. Or aren't I a lucky woman? Mousy enthused, giggling at the sight of Sebastian holding a very feminine purse and colorful gifts. In response, he nudged her forward. Let's go. His deep voice prompted her to get going. She pulled the jacket above her head, and as expected the large article covered her better than a large umbrella. Together they sped to his car, and for once she was thankful of Sebastian's longer strides. He was able to reach the car before her and open the door. She quickly slid in, the soft thump of Sebastian closing the door following after her. Mousy carelessly threw the larger jacket at the back seat of the car and lowered the passenger mirror. She smiled contently at the sight of her curls. They were still perfectly styled with not one curl out of place. The sound of Sebastian entering through the driver's side called her attention. He passed her the purse, but placed her gifts in the back seat. She tried to focus her gaze back to the mirror in order to see what touch-ups her makeup needed, but the fresh sight of a wet Sebastian halted her actions. A soft drop escaped from his hair and slid down his face. Down, down it went, almost losing itself in the hairs that covered his cheeks. But other drops joined it, allowing it to continue its course down the strong curve of his neck and seep into a space beneath his white shirt near his powerful shoulders. His drenched white shirt left little the imagination. It had become near transparent now, giving her the blessed ability to see the hard contours of his chest and abdomen. It was straining this hard 15 minutes ago, Sebastian commented offhandedly, shifting the gear into drive. Tearing her gaze from the fine specimen that is Sebastian Pierce, Mousy instead looked around for a bottle of water. She was suddenly very thirsty despite the pelting rain. Somehow, she had a small inkling of knowledge that even if she did get a sip of water, it would not quench the thirst she was feeling. Your hair remained dry. Are you pleased? Sebastian's inquiry drew her eyes back to him. The hairs of his head were stuck to his forehead, appearing much darker in their soaked state. They provided an excellent contrast to his glowing amber eyes. She was slightly amazed at how much he had spoken to her today. It seemed as though it were not too long ago when she struggled to even get a sentence out of him. Now, He was asking her questions and desiring to speak to her. Her hands folded over the purse on her lap. How could she also overlook how great of a gentleman he was? Even if he didn't like her, he was doing a great job at wooing her nonetheless. Another drop fell from his hair and glided down his cheek. Would it be bad if she touched him? Last time they were in this car, he had rejected her touch. But if today in the hallway was any indication, he did not mind her touch any more. Yes, I am pleased. Thank you very much. Feeling daring, she drew close to him and planted a quick kiss on his cheek. His light stubble tickled her lips, but she enjoyed the momentary closeness nonetheless. Sebastian's grip on the steering wheel tightened, and eyes became clouded. 𝐊𝐢𝐳𝐷𝐞𝐝 𝐬𝐻𝐼𝐬 heartfelt thanks for your unfading patience and enthusiasm. Don't do that again. Why not? Pouting like an elementary school kid who is told they can't go to recess. Because I said so. His answer was shortened to the point, every word laced with finality. Mercy groaned, exasperated, just when she thought she was making progress. Why couldn't her heart choose to like someone like Noah, or even Jordan? They were way more receptive of her affections. "Aye, Captain," she murmured with resignation, feeling slightly rejected. "Anywho, what did you want to speak to me about today?" Tactfully changing the subject, gearing her attention back to the mirror, she took out a tube of mascara and decided she would add an additional layer. This particular brand was not waterproof, but although she ran the risk of ruining her face if she made any contact with the outside rain, she decided long. Luscious lashes were worth it. It's about your newly acquired state of mature. There are some things I want to warn you about, especially when it comes to us werewolf men, he stated seriously, his fire, like eyes meeting hers for a quick second before returning to the road. Mercy hummed with interest and smirked mischievously at the man beside her. "Go ahead, man. I'm all ears." 25. Mercy hummed with interest and smirked mischievously at the man beside her. "Go ahead, man. I'm all ears." Digging back on what James has already informed you, the fact that you have mature means you are not only a woman able to mate with a werewolf, but that you also have a higher chance at producing female children, something that is difficult for typical werewolf partners to make. Slowing down as they reached a stop sign. One of the things Mercy admired of him was his smooth driving. He was reckless nor prone to speeding. How attractively responsible. "Yes, I remember. You need more baby mamas," Mercy joked, recalling those statements the day they first told her of what she had. Mercy noticed him roll his eyes. She could tell he was minor-like grieved at the memory of Noah's brashness. "If you want to word it that way, sure. On top of that, we tend to be highly drawn to women with mature, which is rather odd. But for you this means..." "Why is that odd?" Mercy interrupted. To her it made sense that they would be attracted to her if she could have their babies. Weren't they intimating and such? "Because you are weak compared to a she-wolf," Sebastian said matter-of-factly, as though the answer were obvious. "Our wolves are usually drawn to someone who is compatible to us in strength, while also possessing the ability to calm us." Mercy smiled at his last statement. "IWWW, at the end of the day the big bad wolf just wishes to be tamed." She could. Sebastian disfeatured contorted into one of distaste, clearly displeased with her interpretation of his words. "No, not tamed." He disagreed. He then shook his head, as though figuring he did not want to delve into that any further. "It's odd because regardless of how strong or weak the wolf is, he will still be drawn to you. That being said, with your overly friendly disposition, you need to make sure you are not sending the wrong signal to a wolf. You don't want to accidentally make him think you're open to him mating you." Mercy lifted a brow, finding it ironic how the very man she was making it plain she was telling her this. "Sebastian, I believe I make it clear whether or not I want a man. In case you hadn't noticed." The male beside her seemed to brush off her statement. "It is especially important that you try your best to stay away from males while they're in a moment of heat. Our pack prides itself in high self-control compared to other packs. Nonetheless, it is good for you to be cautious by a male in heat. Isn't it the girls who get in heat? Mercy placed a finger on her chin. Sure I read it somewhere in a werewolf book. She murmured quietly to herself. No more interrupting. Annoyance slipping into his tone. Mercy crossed her arms, giving him the side eye. Well, excuse me for being an active learner. I need to know the things in asking you so that I can be a well-informed wife. The car went into a screeching stop, causing them to jostle forward. Who are you pursuing? Mercy smacked her forehead. She was not going there today. Not right now. Just answer my question. In student so I get to ask questions. It was Sebastian's turn to give her the side eye. Males go into heat. When they do, they're more at risk to mate due to their escalated sexual impulses. It shortened happens rarely. Usually lasts 2 to 3 days about once or twice a year. We keep to ourselves during that time to avoid touching women as much as possible. He answers. Did yours happen this year already? She asked innocently, though her thoughts were anything but. Sebastian eyed her warily, seeming to not want to answer her inquiry. After a brief pause, he finally said, No, not yet. So who's the strongest female in the pack? After thinking, she adds that's our age. Mercy hoped she wasn't making it obvious that she essentially wanted to know what other girl in the pack was considered attractive by her strength, a strength that she herself did not possess. 𝐿𝐤𝐧𝐼𝐸 𝐊𝐢𝐳 heartfelt thanks for your unfailing patience, enthusiasm. Why haven't you mated her? She's strong and beautiful. Not to mention it's obvious she likes you. Mercy said bluntly, genuinely curious. It was obvious to her that Sebastian was the head of the werewolves in his age group. He took after his father in the alpha genes, though he was not one yet. Why would a male like him not have mated with such a great kick like 𝐾𝐥𝐻? As much as she didn't like the girl for her crude personality, she would have to be blind to not admit how gorgeous she was. And now, hearing how she was the strongest, it didn't make sense that the two weren't dating. That's none of your business, he answered darkly. Mercy put a hand on her heart, slightly put off by his caustic demeanor. 𝐿𝐤𝐧𝐼𝐸 heartfelt thanks for your unfailing patience, enthusiasm. Don't need to be so acidic. You're burning my heart, Sebi. She rubbed her chest for extra measure. 𝐿𝐤𝐧𝐼𝐸 heartfelt thanks for your unfailing patience, enthusiasm. 𝐿𝐤𝐧𝐼𝐸 heartfelt thanks for your unfailing patience, enthusiasm. It's okay, heart. It's not you. Sebastian clenched his jaw. If you must know, my wolf is attracted to her, but not enough to want to mate her. He is especially conflicted as of late. Regardless, werewolf can't successfully mate until the age of 18. To her dismay and pleasure, they pulled up to the front of his home. Dismay, because she wished to speak to him further. Pleasure, because he didn't just drop her off home. How perfect. She would get to see the rest of the cult. In a nutshell, be mindful of no wrong impressions, and stay away from wolves in heat. He stated firmly. He paused, and then repeated. Stay away. I'll make sure to warn you if I or anyone else is in heat. I also want you to know that just because a male is not in heat does not mean he has miraculous self-control. Mind the kind of clothes you wear, specifically the ones that show stomach. His eyes fell to the sliver of stomach, her current outfit exposed. The purple-eyed beauty raised a brow. That was barely anything compared to the true crop top she owned. This guy had no idea how really revealing she could dress if she really wanted to. The stomach. An exposed stomach is a sign of submission. Coming from a female, it is. He shook his head again. Just be careful. I'm not so worried for those in our pack, they know better. Sometimes other wolves from other packs come visit. Or if you ever encounter one in the future, I wanted you to know. Mercy took a deep breath. Thanks for all the info. They exited the car and headed to his estate. Since Sebastian would be the one to drop her off home, she decided she would leave her gifts there. Better to enter the house empty-handed than with things she could accidentally leave there. When she passed the door, she was ever so pleased to see some of the cult waiting for her. "There's the birthday girl," Jordan cheered, picking her up and swirling her in a circle. Marcy laughed and kissed him on the cheek. Noah gave a loud wolf whistle. "You look stunning, princess. We would have gone to pick you up, but this selfish wolf wanted to keep you all to himself." Sebastian rolled his eyes at his accusation. "I needed to speak with her on some important things without you interrupting with your useless banter." Noah ignored him and chose instead to envelop her in big bear hug. Mercy felt herself drown in his massive arms, but she relished the feel of them around her. She was so thankful to have sweet friends. Noah pulled away from her and instead allowed a lazy arm around her shoulders. "Jaden is in the kitchen with 𝐿𝐲. You can probably already guess what they're doing for you." Mercy jumped animatedly. Already knowing her way, she raced to the kitchen, the males on her tail. She knew that if they wanted to, they could beat her there. 𝐿𝐲 ran to her when she saw her, and her small arms wrapped around her in a familiar way. Mercy bent and dug her face into her hair. "Thank you, sweetie. It smells great in here." The little girl beamed at the compliment and pulled her to where she was cooking. "We were trying something new. It's Parmesan herb-crusted pork chops with mashed potatoes," 𝐿𝐲 conveyed, bringing her alongside Jaden. He looked ever more composed twin, slowly mashing some potatoes. "We're pretty much done. You guys can take a seat. By the way, happy birthday," though it lacked the rambunctiousness of his previous friends. He gave her a sweet smile. "Thank you, Jaden." Mercy hugged him appreciatively before joining the others at the table. Jordan and Noah seated themselves beside her at either side. Sebastian across from her. Was it just her, or did he just clench his jaw? She easily dismissed it. Her attention soon pulled away as the chef duo filled the table with food. Since it was her birthday, they allowed her to serve herself first. "Move it, Noah." Him sitting next to Mercy, 𝐿𝐲 commanded, her little form pulling on his hand to move a seat over. The large woman peered at her petite form and laughed, very much amused. "You're either going to have to try harder and be much stronger to succeed in that." 𝐿𝐲 glared, her eyes glinting with something dangerous that Mercy never saw before. Was this the same 𝐿𝐲? She never looked quite so dangerous. Suddenly, she lifted her hand and Mercy saw her regular nail transform into sharp claws. "I will rip you to pieces," she threatened. Mercy almost choked on her potatoes, which was saying much since they were perfectly smooth. This must be the dark side of 𝐿𝐲 that Noah had warned her about all those weeks ago. Perhaps those frightened babysitters weren't incompetent after all. It was just her luck that the little girl happened to like her. 𝐊𝐲𝐼𝐻𝐿𝐲 𝐑𝐞𝐝𝐻, heartfelt thanks for your unfailing patience, enthusiasm. Noah, up. Sebastian charged, quickly taking 𝐿𝐲 aside. The corners of his lips quirked ever so slightly. Noah grumbled under his breath, words like unfair and little monster escaping into the air. He slid onto the next seat, eyeing the feisty youth with grim lips that said this isn't over. 𝐿𝐲 smiled triumphantly, taking her rightful seat beside Mercy and serving her food in a rather dignified way. The purple eye beauty giggled behind her hand, finding this to be rather amusing and awfully glad she would never be a recipient of such harsh treatment. Midway through their meal, James and Kristen joined them, having come from some outdoor task. Kristen sat next to her golden-eyed brother, and Mercy was pleased to see Sebastian's eyes soften at the view of his sister. "So you're the big one, right now, aren't you?" Kristen grinned, serving herself a rather generous helping that almost rivaled Noah. "The girl could eat. That's right. Old enough for Sebastian to give me the grown-up talk of the birds and the bees." Mercy joked, making conversation. "Did you know that aside from your ability to mate with werewolves, your kind is also compatible with vampires?" James disclosed. "They actually highly value your kind, seeing as the species has difficulty reproducing. It's not uncommon for them to mark young girls who they find to have premature, and then finalize it when they're 18. He was the type that spoke with his hands, and judging by his movements, it was evident he found this information rather intriguing. Noah scoffed, as though finding the idea repugnant. Don't give her any ideas. She's sticking with us. We're way better than vampires anyway. Right, babe? To her surprise, the entire table peered at her curiously, genuinely eager to know her thoughts. Mercy shrugged. I don't think I'd ever met a vampire before. Otherwise I'm sure they would have marked me. But in any case, I much prefer you guys. At her response, Hayley enclosed herself under her arm, approving her answer. To my agent extraordinaire, my 𝐊𝐬, heartfelt thanks for your unfailing patience, enthusiasm. Unlike us, vampires can't naturally sense when a woman has matured. They only find out by accident when they suck their victim's blood. James elaborated. One of her hands absnessed and Lydia reached for her neck. Mercy wondered what it felt like to be bitten by a vampire. Would it be painful? She would have asked them, but she knew they've probably never been bitten by one to know. She had a vague feeling that any interest in vampires would make them grow weary, and she didn't want that. Besides, she meant it when she said she preferred werewolves. Her love interest was a part of them, and she quite enjoyed this family. My friend told me of a winter wonderland they host in school every year. Do you guys go? Mercy brought this up because she wondered if they estranged themselves from all school activities. She knew they refused to partake in school sports or clubs, but did they also keep away from dances? Kristen shrugged. Before I dropped out of high school I didn't go. This year I'll be going as James State. Oh, you can bring someone even if they're not part of the school. Kristen nodded. Yeah, as long as they pay for the ticket they don't have a problem. The guys usually go, she mentioned, her eyes shifting past the males on the table. So I guess this year it will officially be all of us. Awesome. Do you all have dates? Mercy figured Noah and Jordan, what with their going and friendly personalities, would already have dates. Sebastian was probably going solo. She couldn't imagine him asking anyone to be his date, though with some minor prodding on a part he may be willing to ask her. One thing's for sure. For as much of a flirt as she enjoyed to be, she would never ask a guy to be her date. It just wasn't her style. Jordan stepped in to answer. Only some of us. Jaden is going by himself. Sebastian is going with Keisha. Noah with some random chick in his class. And I am going with you. Mercy laughed at how he so easily appointed himself as her date, which was a welcome distraction from the sting she felt at hearing Sebastian was going with Keisha, a girl he admitted having a pull for. Did he ask her out himself? Willingly. Jordan was aware of her attraction to the brooding, golden-eyed man. She was thankful for his quickness in thinking of a way to not make her feel down at the news. She gave him a meaningful smile, and he returned it just as easily. Sebastian cleared his throat, cutting through their moment like a sharp knife. Once you're done eating, Gil drop you off home. AWWW, why does she have to leave so soon? Hayley wind, pouting ever so prettily. Then, her expression shifted, as though a light bulb turned on and illuminated an idea. How about she sleeps over in my room again? Another day. Sebastian dismissed. For a moment, Mercy almost expected her to pull the same aggressiveness she did when she disputed with Noah. She meekly nodded and went back to eating her fruit. Mercy felt slightly miffed at his refusal, but quickly squashed that feeling down. It was as though she brought extra clothes anyway. The remainder of the meal was spent chit-chatting about random things. They even asked her what she was doing with her family after this. Mercy explained her family was big on celebrations and chose that moment to express her thanks at their thoughtfulness even further. She never minded having an unspectacular birthday, but having them commemorate her birthday through a dinner and spending time was certainly priceless. Sebastian ended up driving her home much later than she anticipated. Even after finishing their food, they stayed in the kitchen to continue talking. Sebastian himself barely putting any input to the conversation, of course. Did her mentioning nothing waited for her at home cause him to do this? She was sure, but she enjoyed the moment nonetheless. At last it came time for her to leave, and she kissed all of them goodbye, holding Hayley in her arms for extra time. Of them all, she was the saddest that Marcy couldn't stay. When she entered Sebastian's car, they settled into a comfortable silence. Sebastian turned on the radio, and it went to the jazz station she introduced him to. The cheeky grin that made its way to her face could not be stopped. "Why are you smiling?" His voice was inquisitive, and she was slightly surprised he had been paying attention to her at all. From her viewpoint, he looked very much concentrated on the road, because the man who never listened to music while driving is now playing jazz. She admitted, giving him the honest answer. They returned to their previous lapse of silence. Sebastian led his fingers on the steering wheel, his shoulders tense. Marcy wondered what was going through his mind. She refrained from asking. He would probably just tell her to mind her own business anyway. To her surprise, he actually spoke. Earlier today Jordan told you in going to the dance with Keisha. The only reason she's my date is because I made a promise to her last year. Her and I are not romantically attached." Marcy had to stop herself from gaping. "Why are you telling me this?" "I'm not sure." Marcy positioned herself to better face him. His fingers were no longer hitting against the wheel, letting her know this was what had him slightly off. His omission had lifted a weight off her shoulders that even Jordan's kindness couldn't fix. For a moment, she had reconsidered her pursuit of him if he had his eyes on 𝐾𝐲 or than he let on. Did he tell her this because he wanted her to know he was still available? "To my agent extraordinaire, Madeline Noban, heartfelt thanks for your unfading enthusiasm." She'd be hard-pressed to get him to admit that. He would totally negate it. Before she knew it, Sebastian parked in front of her house. As she sought his face, he seemed distracted, his eyes darting everywhere else except her. "Before you leave." He reached behind him, his long arm easily extending to the back seat. Hidden beneath his black jacket, which she had so carelessly threw behind it earlier, was a large bouquet of purple flowers. Marcy gasped. The flowers were the same, but offered various shades of her favorite color. Magenta, lavender. The colors were beautifully arranged. It was the most gorgeous set she had ever seen. Marcy hugged Sebastian, holding him to her a few seconds longer than was necessary. She lifted her head to give him a kiss on the cheek, but immediately retracted as she remembered he told her not to do that anymore. She would respect his wishes. One hand reached for her gift bag and another lay hold of the handle. Sebastian's deep voice stopped her before she even got to open the door. "I take it back." "What?" Marcy asked. Confused. Sebastian sighed, showing his unhappiness at having to explain his sudden outburst. "I take back what I said earlier today. You can kiss me on the cheek," he said grudgingly. It almost sounded as though it took him great effort to admit it. Marcy couldn't hide the self-satisfied smirk that graced her lips. "I knew you couldn't stay far away from my kisses for too long, Sebby." Feeling pleased with his admission, Marcy pulled him by the neck and landed one on the center of his cheek, giving him an extended "knew her" for effect. When she pulled back, Sebastian glared at her, but she didn't miss the light shade of red that grazed his cheek. He had liked it, before he could grow further annoyed and take it back. Marcy pulled on the handle and wobbled out his car. "Good night, Sebby," she called, waving as she approached the front of her house. Sebastian merely crossed his arms and stared at her. It wasn't until she entered the safety of her home that he shifted his car into gear and entered the road.